Okay, let's dive into a topic that is absolutely flooding our feeds and sparking some of the most intense debates online: AI generated art. Is this the next great artistic revolution, or are we just drowning in a digital wasteland? The arguments are so polarized, it's really hard to know what to think. So, in this explainer, we're going to break it all down. First things first, you've probably seen this term getting thrown around: AI slop. Honestly, just think of it like digital spam. It's a pretty harsh label for the sheer volume of low effort, kind of bizarre, and often soulless content that AI generators are churning out. It's that digital clutter where it's all about quantity, not quality.
And you have definitely seen examples of this. I mean, remember that wave of completely nonsensical shrimp Jesus images that just took over Facebook for a while? Yeah, those strange, algorithmically generated pictures are the perfect example of AI slop, just clogging up our digital spaces with pure weirdness.
And it's not just the weirdness, but also these unsettling little details that keep popping up. Like in the video game Call of Duty, players noticed a loading screen with a zombified Santa Claus who had 6 fingers on one hand. It's these uncanny, not quite right mistakes that give so much of this content that soulless, machine-made feel. It's not always harmlessly weird, though. AI slop is also being used to create fake historical photos that get passed around in history groups online. And this is where it moves from just being digital clutter to something a lot more dangerous: a distortion of our collective memory and our past. So all of this, the shrimp, the extra fingers, the fake history, it all kind of boils down to this one really anxious question. If an AI can generate endless images from a simple text prompt, are we devaluing the skill, the effort, and the soul that defines human art? We've been here before, how new technology has always disrupted the art world. And what's so fascinating here is that while the tech is brand new, this feeling of crisis, it isn't. Not at all. The art world has faced this kind of thing before, and every single time it triggered a similar panic about the death of art. If you look back, you see this crystal clear pattern. In the 1860s, it was the camera that was supposedly going to kill painting. Then, in the 1970s, synthesizers were dismissed as not real music. And here we are today having the same debate about AI. In every case, a new tool wasn't seen as an aid, but as a total existential threat. And get this, the arguments are almost identical. In 1863, a painter was lamenting that photography had killed portraiture. Today, you hear artists arguing that AI is basically just a form of theft. The anxiety and even the language they use to talk about it is remarkably consistent across centuries. It's wild. But here's the crucial part of the story. Photography didn't kill painting. It liberated it. Once painters were freed from the need to perfectly replicate reality, they were pushed to explore abstraction, emotion, and brand new perspectives. You could even argue that photography was one of the key catalysts for the entire modern art movement. Who is the artist? Exploring the philosophical question of authorship in the age of AI. So that brings us right to the philosophical core of this whole debate. If a machine is generating the image, who's actually the artist? And that question challenges our most basic ideas about what creativity even is. I mean, this is the fundamental conflict, right? Does the creativity lie with the human who has the vision, the one who crafts the perfect prompt and curates the output? Or does it lie with the algorithm that's doing all the heavy lifting of generating the image from scratch? Where does that creative spark actually happen?
This whole conflict gives us two very different ways to see the human's role. On one side, you have the human as the artist, directing the AI like it's just another tool, a very sophisticated paintbrush or a camera. But on the other side, the human is more like a client, just giving a vague idea to an AI that then makes all the real creative decisions.
To get some real perspective on this whole authorship debate, we can actually look back over 100 years to a concept that completely turned the art world on its head: the ready-made. By taking an ordinary urinal, signing it, and calling it fountain, Marcel Duchamp made this incredibly radical point. The art wasn't in the crafting of the object itself, but in the idea, the choice, the framing, the intention of the artist. And that argument, from all the way back in 1917, is absolutely central to the AI debate we're having today. Copyrights and curators, how our institutions are grappling with the reality of AI art. Okay, so let's move from the abstract philosophical stuff to the concrete and see how our real-world institutions, from courts to museums, are trying to deal with this new reality. So legally, there's a pretty clear consensus forming around the world. The US Copyright Office and courts in China have both said that to get copyright protection, a work needs human authorship. So if an image is purely generated by an AI with almost no human input, it's basically in the public domain. The gray area is for hybrid works, and those are being looked at one by one. Meanwhile, huge institutions like New York's Museum of Modern Art are facing a totally different problem. How in the world do you preserve a masterpiece when it's just a bunch of code? I mean, AI art is often tied to specific software and hardware that's going to be obsolete in a few years. And artwork could literally just stop working one day. So to fight this, conservators are developing this fascinating, super high-tech form of art restoration. They have to document every little detail, build virtual time machines to run old tech, and even migrate the code to new systems, all while trying desperately to preserve the artist's original vision. The future is human, why lived experience remains the irreplaceable core of art. So after all this disruption and debate and complexity, where does that leave us? Well, ultimately, it brings us right back to what it means to be human. Critic Mark McGinnis just captures the essential difference between an AI and a human artist perfectly. He says it has never woken from troubled dreams to suddenly remember the loss of a loved one and felt a fresh wave of grief, and it does not know that it will die. An AI simply doesn't have a life. And this is really the crucial point. We connect with art because it's a message from another living, feeling, mortal person. An AI can imitate style and technique perfectly, sure, but it can't share a lived human experience because it's never had one. And that leaves us with a final, really provocative thought. Maybe the greatest value of AI isn't the art it creates, but the questions it forces us to ask about ourselves. It challenges us to look past just the technical skill and really focus on what matters in art, the communication of a fragile, beautiful, and totally irreplaceable human experience.